I mentioned Tony Daunt just a moment ago. We're right next door to his office, right across the street from the Capitol with the Michigan Freedom Fund. And he's on our AT&T line this morning, having just published his weekly Front Lines of Freedom, which you can get delivered to your email box every week, too, completely free by subscribing through the Michigan Freedom Fund. Welcome back, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You heard the voice of Governor Whitmer there say, wow. And that's what you're saying this morning, because it wasn't that long ago during a debate, the subject of a potential gas tax was brought up. This is before she was elected. What happened then, and where are we now?
Well, interesting question. So you're correct. Just over a year ago, there was a debate. And Bill Schuette, basically said, Gretchen, you want to have a 20-cent gas tax increase. And she scoffed at him and kind of condescended him and said, that's ridiculous. That's ludicrous. I don't want anything like that. And then once she's elected, she introduces a 45-cent gas tax increase, and that proved to be incredibly unpopular. And I think we're at about 80% of the public dislikes it, probably hates it, would probably be a better word, and maybe 12% of the people are willing to support it. And just the other day, even though 45 cents has failed, her transportation director at some town hall with State Representative Brixey said that, what we really need is 80 cents. And it's shocking that they don't learn their lesson. But it also proves the point of people who are skeptical of a gas tax increase of any amount. It seems to be never enough for the tax grabbers. And it just makes the point, too, of, what is the true number? If you give 20 cents, then it's going to be 45. If you give 45, it's 80. If it's 80, what, we need to give them $10 a gallon? It's just ridiculous.
Well, they admit that that's, unlikely to get 80 cents a gallon when 45% per gallon has gone over like a lead balloon, even if it's needed. But did Representative Brixey suggest any other alternative?
Quite honestly, I was so taken in and distracted by the 80 cents.
Well, the graduated income tax is what she floated, I think, and I know that you have a strong response to that.
Well, absolutely, and the tax system here, the income tax here in Michigan is flat and it's fair, and it quite honestly should be lower, and it was supposed to be lower, according to even Governor Snyder, and unfortunately that never panned out, and the legislature tried to reduce the income tax rate, take it back down to where it was before the Great Recession hit, and that failed. And so we continue to believe lower taxes for job creators and for individuals through their income tax will create growth, will create development here in the state that will prove to be beneficial for everybody and increase the government's coffers. We don't need to try and extract more out of everybody, because all you do is force that wealth and that creation to go elsewhere.
You made the MERS News quote of the day. I suppose you've seen that by now.
A couple friends sent it to me last night, yeah.
I thought it would be a little longer before you brought up the turd in the punch bowl, is what you said. What were you talking about?
Well, Senator Horn had a hearing on his bill, Senate Bill 492, which it's the Good Jobs for Michigan. It eliminates the sunset on the package and eliminates the cap. And our Freedom Fund is very much opposed to this, and a few of the people there had given testimony and support, and I said, well, I guess, sometimes you're the vodka and sometimes you're the turd in the punch bowl, and I knew my role in that one, and just kind of jokingly wanted to lay out that I was going to be opposed to this, and the reasons being, these types of programs they're unfair, they don't work, and, given what we just talked about with this gas tax increase, it's insulting for us to be talking about foregoing hundreds of millions of dollars to a select few corporations and then turn around and ask the people of Michigan to pay more at the pump to fix our roads. You're starving that infrastructure by giving these targeted incentives, this corporate welfare, to these select few groups, and then looking at the taxpayers to fill that gap, and that's just fundamentally unfair.
Speaking of starving now, the UAW strike against General Motors seems to be finished. It's not ratified yet, and that'll start this weekend. But here are some workers at the Lordstown plant in Ohio. That is not going to reopen as part of the new contract, and they didn't like it, and they were vocal about it. Here it is.
There is no unity with you. Mary Barr just took you guys to the bank. She's in your pocket.
So if you're such a great leader, get your people to vote no.
We all vote no.
It's not been a very good year for the UAW, has it?
It has not. This is just one of those things where the leadership of a lot of these unions, the UAW in particular, over the last couple of years with the scandal and the corruption, and I think it was disingenuous of them to call this strike in the first place, because I think it was pretty obvious that it was meant as a distraction from all of the criminal activity and the unraveling of it by federal investigators. And I think they used a lot of these hard-working men and women as pawns, and it's shameful.
Did you watch the Democrat debate the other night?
I did not. I joke with a lot of friends. I rarely watch Republican debates, so I'm certainly not going to watch a Democrat one. My blood pressure is probably high enough without those things. So,
so you don't like the debate format to begin with?
I just, I think that's silly, this idea that to be able, especially when there's so many people up on a stage, on either side of the aisle, that the ability to stand up there for 90 minutes or 2 hours and come up with a couple pithy quotes makes you qualified to lead a state or to lead the country is, I think, foolish, and just, it's a ratings game. And so I choose to watch football or baseball or hockey or, the cooking channel.
Wow, the proverbial dog and pony show. It does seem a bit demeaning to the candidates to put them in that situation. Having said that, the ratings, I understand, were quite low and have been falling off since summer in these debates that have been showing on CNN and some of the other networks too. It's the Michigan Freedom Fund. How do people find you to get your front lines of freedom every week?
You go to MichiganFreedomFund.com, and there's a little thing that pops up. You plug in your email, and you will start getting it in next week.
No charge from the Michigan Freedom Fund, which wants you to keep your money in your pocket and not surrender it to taxes.